We are here live, not live at the Bark, and excited. I was losing my train of thought there. Excited to have John Gibeau back on the podcast. John, I know you're just pumped to be here.
It's been too long.
It has been
way
too long.
We have a new host I didn't even know about.
Well,
That's me.
Co-host here, Damon Weinandt,
Yeah.
everybody. Thank you, Damon, for coming back on.
Thank you, Ethan.
What does the W mean on your head? I was going to ask you before.
It's I could make something up, but it's a Washington Senators hat. The Twins,
Oh, is it?
Yeah, before the Twins
that's
were the
cool.
Twins. Yeah.
Yeah. Dang. That's
Not Worthington.
way old. That's
Yeah.
way old.
Yeah.
That's cool. Well, John, the last episode you were on, I believe we were talking about the QAnon, or what? How do you pronounce that? We were talking about
QAnon,
that.
yeah.
We talked about some other stuff too. I can't remember everything, but I think that was the last podcast we were on. That was a long time ago.
Well, we were talking a bit about the incels too.
Oh,
which was interesting.
We caught a little bit of heat for that comment. I did.
Oh, really?
Yeah. There was. I don't know if I ever told you that. There was a lady from Texas who watched the podcast, and she got really upset about it. And she went on this rant, left a bad review on iTunes, went on like a 6-tweet Twitter rant against me, saying that we're idiots, that we're defending. Oh, because we were talking about Molly Tibbetts and the guy that kidnapped her. And she said I was defending the guy, coming up with excuses, and I was just trying to come up with reasons he might have done it. Like, I wasn't trying to defend the guy or anything, but she went crazy and left a review, and there was like 6 tweets. I'm like, I responded to her 6 tweets. I'm like, if you want to call into the podcast, we could talk about this.
Yeah.
And then she deleted the tweets.
Yeah,
Like
I didn't know what that was till you told me afterwards. I guess I didn't do research.
As soon as you want to have a dialogue with somebody, they shut up. Isn't that weird?
Well, that's America, though.
Yeah.
You know, and Twitter is the great way to attack everyone now.
Yeah.
Well, the reason I brought up incels wasn't specifically to cause you any trouble. If it does, great. But, you know, there was some suggestion that the man who threw that child over the barrier at Mall of America,
I heard that,
and had less than good success with women, and that was part of his frustration.
Oh.
That he was looking for a woman the day before, he got frustrated,
Yep.
and he was like, well, I was going to hurt someone, so I came back the next day. He couldn't find a target, but it was to deal with female frustration, which is a lot of the incel situation.
Yep.
You know, their frustration finding a mate,
Yep.
and finding someone that, you know, will sleep with them or whatever. And that was part of his frustration.
That's
so,
horrible.
Yeah.
And that kid survived, right?
He did, and actually I read that not only did he survive, but they said the doctor described it as a fall off of a bike. Wow. That's what his injuries were like.
That's a miracle.
No permanent brain injury and no permanent physical injury.
Wow.
You know, so
that's
I mean,
crazy.
scarring or whatever. Yeah, amazing though. I mean, that
because it was the third level, wasn't it? Third level at the Mall of America.
40 feet. 40, 50 feet.
And I hope that guy's put away for good.
19 years.
19 years?
Yeah, that was the plea bargain.
Wow.
19 years. My thing with him is I think he's mentally ill.
Oh,
and
for
I
sure.
think
Yeah.
even his mom was like, you know, what he did was terrible. I mean, imagine being her.
Oh my God.
How do you defend someone who did that? It's your son.
Yeah.
But she said he really needs mental help, which isn't what jail will give him.
No.
But in this world, there's a punishment for your actions.
Yep.
If you've been deemed competent to stand trial, and so he's going to pay that punishment. Is 19 years enough?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Minnesota has a really strange history with dealing with crimes against children.
Oh.
There was a case over in Faribault 10, 12 years ago. A guy was out turkey hunting with his son, who was 3. And he accidentally killed his son. He shot his son with an arrow.
Oh, my gosh.
And the guy didn't even get jail time.
Really?
And so when it comes to killing a child, Minnesota's got a kind of a weird history with punishing. You know, because I think the view of so many of these judges is, well, what's the punishment to him? His child is dead. What can we do to him?
And the intent probably. He probably didn't intend to.
Well, the problem, he didn't intend to, but he was high also when he was hunting.
Well, then, see, that really changes
Negligence.
that for me. If he was on something, and then that happened, that would, before, you know, like you said, already losing your kid, but if you're on something and you do it, that kind of changes it for me.
Well, and he's bow and arrow hunting with a 3-year-old while he's high. Yeah. I mean, everything as a parent, if you're trying to check the boxes of things not to do as a parent, I make plenty of mistakes, but those are like 3 things right away. High, arrows, it was near nighttime, he's 3, I could go a million times over. Now, to kind of flip the script, there was a man who just lost his life who jumped over a bridge to save his 3-year-old who fell in the river.
Wow.
A couple days ago. He held his son up into the air, I think it was Father's Day, enough where the rescuers could get him, and then he drowned.
Wow.
And so,
you
really.
flip the tables, you see both sides of it.
Yeah. And so, you know, people, it's just a sad thing. Whenever you lose a child like that, I know people who have, and there's rarely things in your life that are worse than that.
Well, and while we're talking about kind of bad, sad stuff, whatever, there's been a lot of suicides around Windham lately. In the past, 2-3 weeks, I think there's been 3 or 4. Some lady went head on into a semi, which out of all suicide's horrible, but out of all the ways you got to do it, you got to risk someone else's life too. That's just ridiculous. Another guy, this is very recent, shot himself in the stomach. I don't know. I'm pretty sure it was the stomach. That's what I heard, to commit suicide. So there's been some sad stuff going on, and I don't know why, if it's just people are down right now. I don't know why it's, what's going on around here, but it's real sad to see stuff like that go on. And how can you change people to not do that? How can you be more positive to them?
Well, when I was in 4th grade, I went to Ceylon Public Schools. It's now closed. And they had a bell when we shouldn't have had a bell, and they come across the loudspeaker and said, all of you are dismissed from school today. Leave your books, just walk out of the school and go home or get on your bus. And it was probably 11:30, 11:45 in the morning. We were all like, what just happened?
Yeah.
Well, what had happened is a girl had hung herself in our school gym.
Oh my gosh.
And where people could see. And and why did she hang herself? Well, she had a baby the year before and was bullied something terrible. And, this was the way of exacting some revenge on the people that hurt her. And I think it comes down to that. This country doesn't take mental health seriously.
No.
From the time these kids are, get to a certain age, it's pump them full of pills. Let's not figure out exactly what's going on.
Yeah.
Between these shootings and suicides. I mean, suicide's been around as long as there's been people.
Yep.
But, when you start seeing so many close to home, I think it's important to ask that question. Why here? Why is this happening so much?
We have a huge problem right now in the United States with medicine and using that as the cure-all for people. We need to get medicine's meant to be a crutch for you until you can get off of it, because if you get there's an addiction problem right now, and that's leading to depression big time. If they can't get the pills and the money involved and everything, we got to figure out how to get people off of these pills as soon as they're able to get off of them. I mean, there's a point when you obviously need them. Everyone, there's things that happen and people need medicine. But then there's a point where the doctors are prescribing maybe too much.
Right.
You don't need that. I mean, there's things that people are getting. These prescriptions are huge amounts of pills where they're
I was at a meeting
ODing
a couple weeks ago, and we were discussing there's an option at Sanford where you can spend, it's only $49, which is really reasonable, and they run the blood tests on you and they see how your body metabolizes what type of drugs and what you need, so they can try to dial you in and only give you what you need for whatever your circumstance is. Now, I don't know how extensive that is with mental health. They're talking more pain medications, I think, and things to help you with elements.
Right. But I think that the pain, pain medication, you can get addicted to that.
Oh, most definitely.
So that's where the mental health thing comes in. Then you run into issues if you become dependent on this pill or this medicine and you can't get it. Then you're running into the issue with mental health.
Yeah,
then it becomes
opioids they have to really watch when they're first prescribing them.
Yeah.
And I think there's been it's come out now or in documentaries saying how wasn't the best way to go and overprescribed, and then you get crooked people that are selling them and trying to get people hooked.
All these pharmaceutical companies is ridiculous.
And when you have those in your parents' medicine cabinet, it's one of the first things you probably have access to grab and do too. If they're not even for you, but you have to have them reach out with mental health, and have to either if the person who's struggling doesn't reach out. Hopefully it's when you're looking for odd things around you, like for terrorism and things like that, you can send some signs and try to have that person get some help. But it's a tough topic.
It's all a business too, though. I think because the whole overprescribing and pushing the medication, I think a lot of that kind of has to deal with the fact that the whole pharmaceutical industry. When you think about it, it is a business for for insurance companies, for people to pay for all the medication that they need, and I mean, I'm not saying that the whole medical industry is crooked, but that is something that I could definitely see being factored in to doctors' decision to push medication and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what were you gonna say, John?
Well, I've been in medical offices before in my life, and I've seen complete Chinese buffet spreads provided by pharmaceutical companies. Once every week they come in, here's our new drugs, here's your lunch for today.
Yeah.
That happens. And my question is this: when I was younger, I had a child who had allergies, and the cost of his allergy medicine for a 3-month supply was over $550. Okay, this is in 2005, 2006. Wow. Now, that same medicine in Canada was $130 for 3 months. But if you order medication from Canada, technically it's illegal.
Really?
So what I did, it is. So what I did was I ordered the medicine through a Canadian pharmacy. I had a doctor who was willing to give me the prescription, and then they actually filled that with the exact same medicine. It was under a United Kingdom trade name, because every one of these pills has a different name in different countries. Because they patent it that way.
Yeah.
And so it was moved from the United Kingdom to Canada, and then shipped to me. Now, they always said some of these shipments could get caught in customs. If they do, you're just out, because you can't contest it, because for obvious
pill
reasons.
laundering.
Right.
Yeah.
But Tim Plenty, I didn't care for Tim Plenty, but one of the things he said is ridiculous that the United States is subsidizing the cost of medicine across the world. It's absolutely ridiculous. And as far, you had mentioned about like the addiction problem in this world, we didn't have a lot of heroin problems in this part of the world, in this state, in the Midwest, until that OxyContin kind of got out of control.
Yep.
Because once the doctors started swiping away the OxyContin, or they couldn't shop for doctors anymore,
Turned to
the
heroin.
nearest thing they could find is heroin. There was a woman, and I'm trying to remember where she was from, Virginia, somewhere out east. Her sons were graduating the next day. They went to a party on a Friday or Saturday night, had never done drugs in their life that she had known. She goes to wake him up on that Sunday morning, and she tries to wake the one up, and he's dead.
OD.
And she calls for the other brother. She runs into his room, and he's dead too. She lost two sons on the same night.
Wow.
And who's accountable for that? I mean, the doctors, while I think all believe that they do the best job they can, I think a lot of many of the times over the years, they haven't been as diligent as they should be about how long have you been on this?
Yeah.
How much are you taking?
Do you really still need to be on it?
Looking at the physical symptoms.
Yeah.
Because it is so easy to get addicted to those type of medicines. And
Yeah.
look at Prince and Michael Jackson wiped out
That's
by
crossing my mind.
these drugs. I mean, great talents lost for what? Because they were given a drug they should never have had.
Yeah.
Elvis Presley, same thing. 40 years ago, Quaaludes and barbiturates, those kind of things.
Yeah, you got to watch who your physician is. I'm lucky to have a great one, so she doesn't. The pills aren't the first thing we go to. You go to you go and look at other options. But I just saw in the news before I came here, talking about switching drugs. They just got like a huge shipment of cocaine that came in on a barge,
Really?
up to Philadelphia.
In Philly, right? Yep.
So it didn't go through. It didn't go illegally through a port. Through from Mexico up to the United States through a wall or anything. It's coming shipped in, and it was like $1 billion worth. And
where did it come from?
I think Mexico. But I could be.
It had ported in like 4 different
Yeah,
cities.
they move it like laundering it, laundering the drugs.
They're moving it around.
Yeah, so I don't know for certain if it started in Mexico or not, but it's moving around. But if
they got to Philly though.
It was in Philadelphia
I
where
think
it
it started
came
in South America. South America.
Yeah.
I
Wow.
believe.
But I mean, you're catching that and everything. I mean, it was the third biggest one maybe, and then in the last.
You said $1
couple
billion?
years. Oh, I think it was at least $1 billion, a couple tons maybe.
Yeah.
Don't quote me on that.
crazy.
I think
it was around $1 billion, $750 million of cocaine, street cocaine.
Yeah,
That's
that's a lot to
crazy.
have in one spot.
That's unbelievable.
Well, the better question in that is if they just busted $750 million worth of drugs, how much have they missed?
Right, that's what I was saying. Yeah.
Well,
that's not the first time they shipped that in the last 50
No.
years.
If they can squander that to the side and that's just a liability, that means a lot more is
for
coming
sure.
in.
Yeah.
And,
Well,
and these drug dealers, it's kind of like Walmart or Shopko. They build into their
More like Walmart now.
Yeah, right, correct. Well, they build into their profit margins or the profit they make, how much they will lose in loss, like theft.
Yep.
So this is the same thing these drug pushers, the cartels do, is they figure out, how much we have to sell it for because we're going to lose some in these scenarios.
Probably
It's gonna
10% or
happen.
20%.
Yeah, so.
10%, $750 million.
I'm just guessing.
Well, no, I mean, think about how
it
big
probably
drugs
is.
are.
Yeah.
Because I don't see them just sending that large of amount and never having done it before.
Yeah, true.
Like they would have to have something in the past to base it off of, to have a reasonably good chance to believe that it would work.
True.
Is it possible the way the border has been shut down as much as it has,
Forcing it other directions?
It's forcing it in ports of entry that maybe they didn't think of before. I thought about that today too.
Start
It's
coming in
definitely
through Canada.
possible.
There's so many spots in Canada that you could easily slip
To
through.
get
in Minnesota.
that tonnage across, I think that's probably the easiest to ship, either air or probably easiest by barge.
It came on a ship
and shipping containers.
Containers,
like,
yeah.
Really?
Like your good old, yeah.
Wow.
Probably next to our trinkets that you buy at Dollar General.
I was gonna say it's probably in some regular thing, and that is.
Stay off
crazy.
drugs, kids. I mean, that's it.
I mean,
and adults.
Well, it comes back down to what we're talking about. I think the biggest person to blame is the pharmaceutical companies. They want to rake.
And we're not saying any of these people that you mentioned earlier, because I don't know any of the story. We're not saying they were on drugs or anything.
Who?
The suicides that we started this conversation.
Oh, no. We've been jumping all over
Yep.
the place. But yeah, no, that's not how this started. We're just talking about mental health. But I think the pharmaceutical companies are the biggest people to blame because they're the ones sending just massive amounts over to these hospital or these pharmacies, whatever.
Yeah.
And they're trying to push them, and they got these pharmacies got to get rid of them, so they're going to prescribe them. And you got people like that Martin Shkreli guy or whatever that he what pill does he own? He owns the
Insulin? No.
it's something like that. Can you look up
Insulin's
the
on the rise, too.
Martin? You know who I'm talking about, don't you?
Yeah, it's
Martin,
that young guy that
he's an evil
they
guy.
just sued him.
cranked up the cost of the medicine. And
You know what medicine it
EpiPen.
was?
It was EpiPen,
No,
wasn't
I don't think it was EpiPen.
No.
Look up Martin Shkreli
But it was
or
something people needed.
It was something people need. Was it for like diabetes or something? Was it Shkreli? There it is.
Insulin,
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, try looking what this guy has. He's a little jerk looking guy, like a little douche. I mean,
he looked like the kind of guy that has no friends.
No.
And he doesn't care about.
Bullied in high school, a businessman, former hedge fund manager, and convicted felon. There he is, right there. He owns a company. If you could find out what pill it is, Pete, I can't think of. Running pharmaceutical. I can't think of what it was. It was something that people needed. Maybe it was insulin.
If you got a sketch
Just go on
artist,
Wikipedia.
If you got a sketch artist to draw an incel, they would draw him. Seriously, they would draw that guy. That guy. I mean,
And this is of course why we're waiting for this to come up a little asterisk that obviously not all mental health is due to drugs. I mean, it's an event that could happen to you. It could be psychological,
raise it from $13.50 a tablet to $750 a tablet overnight.
Jesus.
It
Yeah,
just says tablet, doesn't say what.
Well, it looks like it says that right above there, Daraprim. Was it called Daraprim?
I thought it was something he raised. Let's see here. Thursday, pharmaceutical company he previously headed. And I remember the court hearings, but it was something that people needed. God, this is just an article about his arrest. But I remember during the court hearings, he was saying that your insurance company is the one paying for it. You're not paying for it.
Right.
So he's like, you don't have to worry about it. If anything,
your insurance just goes up and up and up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you raise it from $13.50 to $750, that's a crazy rise. So it's people like him that are the reason for a lot of this stuff going on. Just bad people trying to make a profit off of other people.
Well, people don't understand. I'm in the insurance business. That's all cyclical. I mean, if the insurance companies are saying, we'll okay that, well, they got to pass that buck on. They're all in the that's part of the system that we live in, is people are trying to make a living off of it. And that I've said for the last 10 years, well, probably more than that, 15 years, that what this country needs to do is get a representative or a senator with some balls that will go into Congress and say, listen, I'm going to put a constitutional amendment on the table that will say that health care is a right. And we're gonna vote on it as a Congress, and then we're gonna let the American people vote on it. Because here's the thing: in the Constitution or in the Bill of Rights, if they create an amendment that adds something to the Constitution, if they actually put it in there, they have to fund it. The Constitution says if you create a law, you have to then fund it. That's a requirement of the government.
Yep.
Then they'll have to fund health care. At this point, I mean, to be honest, that's why the Obamacare thing just upset me so much. Is they're gonna tax you more if you don't have it. Even if you can't really afford to buy health insurance, they're going to tax you anyways. The deductibles are going to be $5,000 or higher. So what does that mean? Guy like you got $5,000 laying around?
No,
but you pay for this health insurance. I laid it out one time. $5,000 deductible for a family, still $800 a month.
Wow.
So take 800 times 12. That's your cost.
Yep.
Okay. If you don't get sick till say December, that's your cost.
Wow.
I'm not a math guy, but $10,000.
Yeah.
And then you have a $5,000 deductible. So if you get sick on December 15th, that's $15,000.
Wow.
Okay. Now
this is Obamacare you're talking about.
Yeah. Well, any of these health plans that they have now. So then what happens is you've paid that $15,000. Come January, let's say you've recovered a bit, but then you get sick from something else and have to be readmitted. There's another $800 plus the $5,000 deductible starts over.
Wow.
Now you're $20,000 in the hole.
Yeah.
Are you any better off?
No.
No, the government, it was a way of taxing to pay for low-income health care, and that's why they taxed people who didn't have it. It was completely unfair. It was a cost shift to people that were hardworking business people who shouldn't have had to pay for everybody else who needed the health insurance. I mean, I want people to have health insurance, but why should I have to pay an exorbitant amount of my salary to pay for somebody who doesn't? And I'm not talking about people who are disabled or senior citizens or people who can't afford to pay it. For people, well, your generation who says, hey, listen, I'm 19 years old. I don't give a shit if I get sick. Because you know what? I'm not going to get that sick. Why would I pay for health insurance? I'd rather have them take it out of whatever refund I'm going to get and not carry the health insurance. Well, in order for health insurance to work, you have to have this giant pool of people. And your generation said nuts to that. Why would I do it?
So that's the reason that they're trying to make everyone pay, is because our generation just doesn't want to pay?
They just don't want to pay. And the thing is, we need you to pay in order for this thing to work. And it's not working. You know, because you got guys who are 50. The people that really get squeezed are the people that go from 55 to 65. That's why they can't retire. Is it
the Social Security fund's gone?
Well, it's not. That's a whole other issue. This is, you know, your health insurance when you're 60 years old is $1,000 a month. So you want to retire? There's $1,000 right off the top of your any money you make before you can retire.
Would a good answer to this problem be making it competitive, where these health insurance companies are, you know, trying to get the most people, so they're gonna try to get the better prices? Would that be the way to go for it?
Here's what I'll do. I'm going to challenge everyone at this table sometime in the next 6 months to go to 4 different hospitals and get their price list and whatever they charge.
You can't.
Yes, you can. Minnesota law says they have to give it to you.
Really?
Now, they will fight you.
I was going to say, they're not going to want to.
No, they won't want to. But then take that list and compare from hospital to hospital to hospital. They're buying the same supplies. They're paying different prices. And if you go in as an insured person, they charge you a separate price than if I go in with no health insurance.
Really?
Yeah, they give me a discount. Well, they give me a discount. Guess who's paying for that? You guys, the insurance people, the people who have insurance.
Really?
That's why Medicare is such a loser. It's great for people who are on it because it pays for so much stuff. But for instance, let's say there's a $1,000, and I don't want to get into it too much, but let's say there's a $1,000 procedure they have to do. For a guy that's on regular health insurance, that thing probably costs $1,000. Now Medicare in the federal government says, even though that costs $1,000, we're only going to pay $800 for it through Medicare. And what the government says, if you won't take what we pay, we're not going to pay you anything for it.
Really?
They just won't go to your hospital. So that extra $200, the hospital eats that for a while. Then what they do is they turn around. So for a guy like me who has regular health insurance, they charge me $1,200 to make up the price. And so it's great for, you know, you're just kicking that can down the road. And what's the answer? The answer is, let's hold the hospitals accountable to share their price list. Let's make sure that we're charging competitive prices. You know, when I had my first son, which was 19 years ago, they had a listing. They had these UPCs of what everything cost. You know, Band-Aid was $2. A thing of saline that you put in an IV was like $14 in 2000. A bag of salt water is $14. Why is everything so ridiculously expensive?
Because they get away with it.
And the insurance companies will pay it because that's what they agree to pay. Well, that isn't sustainable.
So what you're saying is we need to be able to see internally everything, what they're doing, so there's no hidden, secretive stuff going on.
Right.
I can't see. I mean, I see where you're coming from. It's a good idea. I can't see the hospitals wanting to go along with it.
Well, then you know what we do? We find a hospital that will, and we all go there.
So there needs to be competition.
Well, sure there does. If we're going to keep the system, there has to be competition. But we as consumers have to be smart about it. We have to ask the question. You know, you go into that doctor's office, you have got to ask, what's this going to cost me? What is it? Well, don't worry, it's insurance. No. What's it going to cost me? Because at the end of the day, our insurance premiums are set on what we're all going to pay. I don't care what insurance will pay. What is this going to cost? You know, they have a thing called hospital protocol. I had a friend who was going in for a colonoscopy, or for a knee replacement.
A little bit different.
Yep, he goes, well, I'll get to the colonoscopy part. He goes in for a knee replacement, and he has to go in, before he can get the referral to the surgeon to do the knee replacement, he has to go to a general practitioner. And they have a list of tests, these protocol tests. One of them for his age was a colonoscopy. They want you to do this. Well, it's just like tick, 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 all the things they can charge for before they send the referral over to the surgeon. When they wouldn't have to do
Rake
that.
in more money.
But that's protocol medicine. They can get, it's kind of like an a la carte. You know, you go buy a hot dog, mustard, ketchup, onions, relish, what do you want on it?
All that stuff,
There you go. Whether you need it or not, you're going to get charged for it. So
there's a lot of good hospitals, too, that are working on preventive medicine. So, like, people who can be healthy and don't have to go to the doctor so much and rely on insurance and rely on getting seen. So if people start making healthy choices and doing things, it might thin out a lot of the elements that are costing so much. I know we mentioned smoking on a couple of ones before, and that costs like $600 for everyone to smoke, yet it's still legal. I'm not saying that it should be banned, but like just little things like that also rise the thing, because everyone's coming in to get looked at, get fixed. Technology gets better, our life expectancies get longer, and you have to be humane about it. So there's just so many variables that go into it, like how to, like John's saying, how to give someone health care, but they're trying to make some good steps in that direction, which I thought was interesting. How preventive medicine, like like taking care of yourself, like doing that test, like things that preconditions that you might have that you can start, working for to like be healthy. Like they could say, oh, you might have this down the road because their technology is advancing so fast, and the studies that they do, and even drawing blood, things like that. So
there's online doctors you can go to now, like actually can prescribe you medication.
Telemedicine, it's getting really huge, and
which could be a scary thing as well.
And expenses too. We have to recruit doctors to our small town so we can still have health care. Like, so we're not driving. Well, we say Mankato. If you're listening, it's an hour away. Sioux Falls hour away. I mean, we have a great hospital in our small town. They're even doing more and more stuff every time, which does raise the costs because they're adding amenities that people want to come and use that they're not doing so well.
And I brought up, or we were talking about the opioid stuff, and I was reading an article, and they're starting to crack down on this. It was big on the East Coast. They were flying in doctors from other countries, and these doctors were just writing up insane prescriptions for people, like 60, 80 pills, huge bottles, like pretty much bulk amounts. No one would need that much. That's where a lot of the issue starts, and I feel like a lot of dealers, like drug dealers, are going in here getting prescribed that much, and then they're just going out to the streets.
And now it's super dangerous with that fentanyl. It takes like
gosh, it takes. Jeff LeCam was telling me about that. How little amount can kill you. It's an unbelievable amount.
That should be a deterrent, but if you're hooked, you're
Well, and fentanyl is supposed to be used for end-stage disease. It's for pain management. It's not supposed to be used because you hurt your knee. It just isn't. And I will throw one more question out to all of you here. If you have health insurance, and let's say you had a family of 3 or 4 kids, and your deductible $6,000, and one day you're just like, man, my chest doesn't feel good. How many of you don't go to the doctor because you don't want to have to pay for that?
I don't go to the doctor.
Well, there you go. But as you get older,
I'm at the point where I will now.
But there's a lot of people who won't because they can't afford the cost. How many people in this country, what they say the greatest country in the world for healthcare, are dying when it's 2 hours away because they can't afford it? That happens every day in this country, and that's why when these politicians talk about all this damn garbage about who's done this and who's done that, you know what I want to talk about? Let's fix healthcare. Let's get this immigration thing straight. This country needs immigrants to succeed. We just absolutely do. The Social Security system and the Medicare system are falling apart because the people that are dying are not being replaced. And so let's set up a system so we can get this thing rolling again.
I saw that this morning on the news, that the growth population is going to level out by, I think I said 2020 maybe?
For like the 2021?
Whole world? No, just for a while. Like it's not like...
In the world or United States?
Everywhere in the world.
Oh, okay.
So like the medium age is eventually going to rise to like 41, which is 31 right now, because more people aren't, the population. So when you're talking about stuff like this,
they're waiting to have kids, or
I don't know what the reasoning is.
Some are choosing just not to have kids. They talked about specifically white people in this country are choosing to not have children, or if they are
getting married at a later age or not having children.
I know that the average marriage age has really gone up now. People are waiting a lot longer in life to get married.
And I think John kind of hit on what I took from listening to him. The responsibility, it's a thin line and a balance of where that responsibility comes on, who's responsible for your health care. It should be, like you said, a right. It's humane. That's the humane answer. But you also have to make like wise decisions to have proper health care, and I'm not saying don't have kids, but like maybe make sure you can afford how many kids you're going to have, and things like that. And so you're not putting the burden on, and that's not just the example. There's plenty of examples.
I look at it this way. If we're going to spend $17 trillion a year on our military, and the next 3 militaries below us are allies, and they're spending a quarter of that, we can't afford to pay for health care. It's bullshit, and you may have to take that out, but that's what it is. It's BS. And when people say that to me, I tell them that's bullshit. We have the money to pay for it. We have people who don't give a crap about us. We half of Congress is millionaires.
Yeah,
they just are.
I didn't know that, but I saw they were trying to get a pay raise here.
And some of these programs they're eliminating that are peanuts compared to what you just said.
They're just not. I mean, the stuff they go, oh, look what we did today. You're exactly right. It's a joke. I mean, you really want to make cuts. We don't need to have 3 new Air Force Ones. We don't have to have that.
Yeah.
We don't have to be in every single war that ever existed in the history of the world. Yeah. I mean, to look at the way we
polls up.
Well, right, and the way we piss on our veterans. I mean, I have 2 sons that are military age, and I have recruiters call me, and I said, listen, I have nothing but the greatest respect for our military people.
Yep.
They keep us safe, but I will tell you this: if it comes to paying for my kids' education or placing them in the care of the Veterans Administration in their current state, I'll just go ahead and pay for their education.
Yeah.
I mean, the way they treat our veterans,
Horrible.
the way they've peed on these Vietnam folks for years and years with Agent Orange.
Yep.
I see recently in the last 3 months, the VA has approved payouts to veterans who were in the Navy during Vietnam. They were denying them because they weren't on the ground. They were still in the theater of operations.
Oh.
But the thing is, these Navy guys were taking showers with desalinated water that come right out of the Gulf of Tonkin or whatever.
Yeah.
They were sucking the same water out that was flooded with Agent Orange. These guys were getting early onset diabetes, skin cancer. And, Agent Orange actually changed the DNA of some of these guys.
Oh, really?
So when they had children, their children's DNA was screwed up.
Really?
And the VA denied and didn't pay for 40 years for some of these guys.
Yep.
Waited for them to die off, and now we'll pay.
Yeah, it's horrible.
The next thing you'll
nasty
see coming
stuff.
in that respect is these Iraq war veterans. A lot of them have these burn pits. Ask an Iraq war veteran. They're actually burning all their garbage using diesel or airplane fuel, and they're breathing in all these fumes. My sister-in-law lost a relative who was in the armed forces over in Iraq and Afghanistan. She spent 3 years on a burn pit. And it killed her.
Really?
She got cancer and died. She was like in her 30s.
They're burning stuff in Iraq, or they were?
Oh, yeah, they're burning all the military garbage.
Really?
That's what they're doing.
I bet even the sand. I mean, I'd relate this to the horses. We water down the sand, but when you're in an environment like that too, their environment, your lungs are just getting full of
It's like a black lung almost, yeah.
Wow.
I mean, there's just so many things.
And I just saw something, it was not Stephen Colbert, it was John...
Oliver?
No, Jon Stewart was
Jon
at
Stewart.
Congress talking to them about 9/11, and the fund is running out very quick for the 9/11 rescue, the fire...
First responders.
The fund is running out very quick. And he's trying to get more money in because these people are dying and they're running out of time. They have a lot of health problems, breathing problems, and he pretty much quit his Hollywood career to go full time and try to get more money for these responders.
Well, and what a shame that is. I mean, firefighters. I'm a firefighter. I saw something the other day in the training. Firefighters are twice as likely to get testicular cancer. They're 1.5 times more likely to get prostate or skin cancer. And, these guys and
From the
gals,
chemicals burning to fight the fires?
Yeah, I mean, 30 years ago, it was a lot of paper, wood, cloth.
Asbestos and old...
Yeah. And now you got the flame retardant materials, which are almost worse. They don't really stop the flames that much, and when they burn, they're terrible. Polyvinyl chloride, which is your plastic piping.
Yep.
And, to me, it's despicable. I was right on line with Jon Stewart there. You're taking these guys and gals who showed up at 9/11.
The response time was unbelievable.
Did everything. I mean, they put themselves in harm's way.
Yep.
If that place melted like they said it did, 2,000-3,000 degree temperatures, they're around all that stuff, breathing that asbestos, the dust, like you said, that massive dust cloud.
Yep.
These folks are dying at incredible rates because of cancer and lung illnesses.
And not even thinking about it while they're doing it.
No. Like, you rush in when other people are running away.
Yep.
There were guys and gals running right into that garbage.
Going up the stairwell while people are going down.
And half those congressmen couldn't even show up at that hearing.
Yeah. Well, and to be fair for that, I did see that there was some misreporting going on with that because it was a subcommittee meeting, and so there was actually only 2 people gone. But when they showed the room, it was almost completely empty because the committee only has like 12 members on it. Well, there was, I think, 10 there. There was 2 missing.
Well, let me ask you this. Of those 2 that were missing, name another hearing they could be at that's more important.
Yeah, no, I don't agree with the people that are missing.
I mean, I get where you're coming from.
To be fair, it was a Republican and a Democrat, so it wasn't one or the other side.
You're really doing some research over there, Ethan. Probably.
Yeah, well, I was just reading some articles and stuff because I read about it and I saw that when Jon Stewart was giving his thing, he was pissed off. He was super mad, which is he has the 100% right to be. But he kept bringing up the fact that everyone didn't show up. So then I'm like, well, what were they thinking? What were they thinking? Why didn't they come? And then I look it up, and there's room for 42 people in there, but that's for the full committee when they're doing a full committee hearing.
Yeah.
This is for a subcommittee. It was the environmental.
What's the next step then? Full committee, or what does they have to pass a subcommittee and then
they keep getting brushed off like it's horrible. The whole thing, they keep getting pushed off. They keep telling them they'll take care of it when they get more money, but they just keep pushing them off. I guess it's a little tricky
when a select few are making the decision if you don't have more minds coming together.
Well,
it's horrible.
To me, though, it's like, why is that even? Why is funding that a question? Why is that a line item you even look at?
Yeah.
You know, when I was mayor of Ceylon, we were applying. I had to go to the state with Bob Gunther, and they have the bonding bill every other year. So what they do with the bonding bill is when the state borrows money to pay for road projects, different infrastructure projects.
Yeah.
Now, what a lot of times will happen is cities like Duluth, even from down to Ceylon, will go to this bonding, will go to their representative and say, flip something into the bill that will earmark money for a certain project.
Yep.
Well, we had a project that was $17,000. So I had to go and go to this committee and say, hey, before me was the city of Duluth. They were building a new civic center. They wanted $4 million. So they, of course, talked about that, and said, okay, we'll pass that through committee.
Yeah.
Well, then I come up there and they're like, how much do you need? And I go, well, I'd like $17,000. And
of course
they look at Bob Gunther, and they go, Bob, is this 17? He goes, 17 million? No, $17,000. Okay, perfect. We'll do that.
Yeah.
Well, then when it got to Tim Pawlenty, it passed all through the House and the Senate. Those bills went to Tim Pawlenty. He line item vetoed because he can line item veto that.
Wow.
He took $17,000 out of that bonding bill. And so to me, it's like that kind of money to a small town is everything.
Yep.
If Duluth doesn't get $4 million for their civic center, they're still Duluth. Everybody's going to Duluth.
Yep.
It's so you fight that battle. I mean, those representatives, they do have a tough job because they have a lot of these private interests that are coming,
special interest
hitting them up and trying to get them to do this, that, or the other. But that pressure's there, and unfortunately, some of them succumb to that.
Oh well, I think not just some. I think you get pulled into, I think it's all just a big corrupt. There's so much corruption. It's unbelievable. Yeah. You and everyone goes into it. I shouldn't say everyone. Most people go into it, and they think.
I should say most everyone.
Yeah. We're gonna get called out now. A lot of people go into it thinking they're gonna change something, and I think they become part of the problem when they realize how everything works in the inside.
Well, and on the national level, you're not paid a ton to be a representative. It really isn't much money.
Really,
when you look at what major career. Well, a lot of these people are attorneys, doctors. Not of them are Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez who bartended.
Yeah.
A lot of these people are attorneys, doctors. They take time out of their careers to do this job. To make far less money.
Yep.
But what they're finding is that they'll spend 4 years in Congress or 2 years in Congress or 6 years in the Senate, and then what they'll do is get a lobbying job that pays them twice as much money.
Yep.
And so what they're trying to do is ban people from leaving those jobs and then taking lobbyist jobs. Because then the problem is that they have friends inside the Capitol that they can then work, and that's why these lobbyist companies hire. These special interests hire these people because they can get into the people who matter. They're friends with them.
The woman you just said laid it out pretty clear in that one hearing,
Alexandria Cortez or whatever. Yeah, she's kind of she's an interesting. What do you think about her, John?
Interesting is a very modest way to put it. I would say she is something.
This is the thing, and I ran. To be fair, in 2004, I ran for the Minnesota House of Representatives as a Democrat. So, with that being said, I will say this about her. I think that the problem, every 30 years or every 10 years for the last 30 or 40 years, Democrats have said for 10 or 15 years, the global warming, the world's going to end in 12 years or 15 years.
Yeah.
They keep saying it and saying it and saying it. 10 years passes and it doesn't happen.
Yep.
My opinion with her is she's trying to trick us into socialism.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like to me.
Yeah.
Like, government can fix your problems because, let's be honest, government's made us what we are, right? I mean, everything that I've done for myself. Government has helped me. They build roads. They do those kind of things.
Yep.
But I don't ask government to come in and make my life super better. That's my job.
Yeah.
And so that's what worries me about her is when she starts talking about we're going to eliminate jet airplanes.
Yeah.
Cars
are going to be gone by 20. What is it? 20 something. There was a crazy
2030 or 2040.
No more light rails.
Or not. I don't mean cars.
She
said
cows.
Gas cars are going to be gone by 20.
And she said we have a high-speed rail all the way across the country.
Who's going to pay for that?
Right. Well, and in the rural area, that's where you get pinched. Farmers, you're going to stop farming meat. We're not going to have cattle farmers anymore. That's going to be the end of that.
Well, I have something about that, by the way, too.
She said they're going to take every commercial building in the United States and it'll be rebuilt to those specifications to save on energy and
I kind of relate it to yes, she's way far left, like too far left. Like those ideas, I don't foresee any of them being able to happen.
Right.
But
No,
she started a conversation, and there's some really far left, there's some really far right, and you have to kind of slide and meet in the middle. It's so cliche. But it's like talking about the straws we always talk about. That just seems really ridiculous, like to get rid of straws. We've said that.
Yeah.
But it gets us talking about it, and what's next? Straws, and then, down the road, paper cups. And I don't know if that's a good analogy, because you could argue that both ways, that you open the door for socialism. But it also is a good conversation starter. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
She's a freshman senator, right? And like she's getting a lot of publicity. And there are some that don't get that much publicity. But now in the climate,
No, most of them don't.
No. But there's still a lot of them out there that are pitching the same bills and ideas, not the exact same, but
she's just
really
louder
out there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Really out there. And she's getting the coverage now. And you get on Twitter and you get someone to tweet back and forth with you, and it makes you even more powerful. And
she said a lot of dumb stuff too, which is really like you can look up quotes and stuff, like dumb stuff, like she said. There's whole Twitter pages for it. She gets hated on a lot
Twitter
too.
Her Twitter page is actually a page full of it.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I
stuff.
saw a cool video of her dancing on a rooftop to forget what song it was, but they were slamming her for it, though. I mean, she was just having a good time. Like,
if you're a politician, you're gonna get slammed for anything you do.
And she's not unfortunate looking. I know the video you're talking about. I mean, I would rather watch her dance for.
It looked like the opening of Friends or something.
I'd rather watch her dance for 7 hours in a row
than half
a second of Hillary Clinton or Bernie Sanders.
I'm sure that helps to get her some coverage.
And what you were saying about how kind of that meet in the middle, throw stuff out. I think Obamacare wasn't intended to be here forever, and I think Barack Obama knew that. I think what he wanted to do,
of some of the things.
Correct, is just let's get it into the mainstream. And now people, there was never conversations about having one payer system.
No.
Now those conversations are starting to happen. Can we make that work? Well, can we make that work? Medicare is a one payer system. The VA is a one payer system. Can we make it work where everybody just chips in, here's your amount? I know, listen, I used to own my own business. If I could have chipped in an amount and I thought that everybody then would get health insurance, I would consider it, but you got to make it work for business. I mean, these people understand when you hire people, like if I hire you, I'm paying half your taxes. Did you know that?
No.
I'm paying half of your, like when you get taxes taken out of your check,
you're
only paying half. Your employer's paying 2 parts of that, the Social Security, the FICA, and the Medicare. I'm paying half of that for you. So that's the cost of even just having you employed. Work comp, all these things.
Yep.
And so, like, the difference, if I have to pay you a little higher wage or give you some health insurance, then I have to decide, can I afford another person? And I got to figure out the taxes and all the implications.
A lot.
It is a lot of stuff that most people don't even think about.
Would you say Cortez is doing the art of the deal?
She's not good at making deals.
Well, let's hope it's better than that.
Aiming high and
I think
doing some
Trump,
compromises. I don't want to go on political.
No, it's okay. Let's do this because I think that
we don't ever get political on here, John.
We're doing it.
John's taking it over. All right.
He was mayor. He was the youngest mayor.
Yeah, I was.
Yeah, that's another thing.
We were asked. Sorry, not to derail us, but we were asking, does that still hold, or was there a younger one?
No, I think that still holds. Yeah.
John Gibeau.
I mean, I don't Google myself every day. I should. I used to.
Every other day.
Here Pete's finding some Cortez memes there.
Oh, those are the best.
Yeah. It's the crazy eyes that get me.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes, we can land on the sun.
Hey,
yes, we can land on the sun. We just have to do it at night. That kills me.
You probably made that one. Yeah. You could do. We used to play games. We could do the what's real, what's fake. Like
when you become the Democratic nominee, I got elected. What? I don't get that one.
John was going somewhere.
Yeah. John, okay, my bad.
The art of the deal. Donald Trump has taken a lot of stuff in the media about how many failed businesses he has. He's put himself out there. I mean, he did have some failed business, and he made the comment. I had to start my business with a small loan of $1 million from my dad.
Yeah, horrible.
And
comment.
You name anybody here that anybody anywhere that wouldn't, if his dad came and said, "I want you to get into business. Here's $1 million." He's no. I choose to be a pauper, and I'm just going to go start my own restaurant with $7. I mean, that's not how it works.
Yeah.
And so, for half of these people that are giving him a hard time, a multimillionaire like Nancy Pelosi or Chuck Schumer, they all have millions of dollars.
Yep.
For them to say, well, I know what the common man wants. I know that Trump failed at business. He did fail at a few businesses. But you know what Trump did? When Trump went to run for president, he did something that a lot of these people couldn't do. He went to a group of people who were underrepresented. He went to the Midwest and said, you know what, guys? We don't think the message is being heard. And for the first time ever, because all the polls that came out during that election said Hillary's going to win by 13 points.
It's crazy.
And then
landslide.
Well, what happened was people who wanted to vote for Trump caught so much shit about it, they didn't tell anybody they were voting for Trump. They actually lied to the pollsters. So when he won, everybody's, we're so surprised. These people knew, and I saw a study the other day that said Trump's base is around 25 to 28% of the voters, the voting public.
Really?
He already has that. So any Democratic challenger that comes to him, he starts out with basically a 28-point lead. And they have to chip away at that. In order to win enough votes to be elected again, he needs to gain 5 or 10% more.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
And that's why when these knuckleheads start saying, well, let's get rid of the Electoral College, and whatever, that's just sour grapes, dude. That is sour grapes by a group of people who lost an election and want people in California to tell us who our president is.
That's what it is.
I'd rather live in Canada.
Trump did lose the popular vote. There's no denying that. No one can deny that. But the Electoral College is so important for towns like Windham, counties like Cottonwood County, and states like Minnesota that don't have the majority vote, not like California, not like New York, because we still need a say in who's the president. We don't have the huge population, but we still have to have a say. That's why the Electoral College is so important, See,
and this is where the conspiracy part, because we always get into conspiracies when I'm
We
here.
do always end up in conspiracies.
Here's what I suggest.
Yeah.
This country has been flooded with immigrants from many countries, not just Mexico, but it's been flooded with many, many immigrants.
That's the base of this country.
California, Texas, well, especially in the last 10 years. California, Texas, Florida, Arizona, and what they're trying to do is they fill those states with people who maybe could or couldn't vote. They give them the vote. They're trying to give them the vote. Why? Because then if they can flip this Electoral College thing to a popular vote, California will pick our president. Texas will pick our president every single time they vote.
They're trying to make illegal immigrants the right to vote.
Oh, yeah, they're trying to give them the rights to get welfare, to vote. That's part of this whole thing. That's why when people say, we'd like to have somebody other than Donald Trump, they can't get their arms around it, because that's what people think. There's a lot of people in the Midwest that really do believe that. That if you because here's the thing, if you bring in, let's say California has 10 million or this country has 10 million undocumented people. If 1 million of those people are in California, which is likely, because that's got a huge population.
Yeah, it does have a huge
Imagine
population.
adding 1 million new voters. People that the Democratic Party has right in their pocket because they fought for them to be here. They're not going to vote for a Republican.
No.
You'd never have another Republican president forever. And I'm not saying all presidents have to be Republican, because I was a Democrat.
Yeah.
But if you want this country to be fair, you have to have a party balance, and we don't have that.
Is that why they were fighting to get rid of, you need an ID to vote? Is that why people are making arguments?
Yeah, they want as many people to vote as they can, because the Democratic Party tends to coddle to those groups.
I don't understand that argument. Whether you're Democratic or Republican doesn't really make any sense to me. You need a license to drive a car, to buy a drink. You need a license for a lot of things. Why wouldn't you have to show a license to vote?
In Minnesota, there's been a great integrity in this state with people who vote. There has been. When they've studied this, there hasn't been a lot of voter fraud in Minnesota.
Really?
In other places, there is a lot of fraud. And I'm not just defending Minnesota. They've studied this in Minnesota. There is a widespread belief and actual facts to back it up. There isn't a lot of voter fraud in Minnesota.
Huh.
Because if, let's say, you and I vote together, and I know him and he's new to the town, if he doesn't have his ID, I can vouch for him to be able to vote. Yes, in Minnesota, you can vouch for somebody. I think they changed it now where you have to have a license.
Or a utility bill, I think I brought when I came back.
Oh, I don't know anything about
utility
this stuff.
bill. Huh?
Like one to your apartment that you live.
I think you bring, but I guess it makes sense.
Yeah.
And so to me, it's like this. I want immigrants here, and I say, because I don't want people to think I'm some sort of racist. I want immigrants here of all types, because it's going to save our country. But what the problem we have is, for 40 years, these damn politicians have been kicking this can down the road, and now you got these poor people showing up at borders that are swamped. And we let them all in? Can't do that.
No,
because there is some gang activity that's involved with that.
Oh, for sure.
Now we have to stick them in camps. That's the answer.
That's
you want
horrible.
a child locked up? It is horrible. But the problem is, and they all blame Trump. Trump is doing exactly what Obama did.
I would say
He's
Obama's
saying,
doing
I'm
the same
putting my
thing,
foot down and saying we're gonna enforce this now. What happens when you enforce it? You got kids in cages, and that's terrible. It shouldn't happen. But the Democrats have a hand in this too. They all sit back and say, "Oh, look how terrible Trump is." He's made some choices that I wouldn't have made.
No, but
they have done nothing, including Obama and Clinton, to fix any of that problem.
Well, I think Bill Clinton was one that was trying to do stuff before, like way back. He was talking about building a wall and stuff too.
He was.
There's earlier interviews with him, but no one gave him any slack for that. It was as soon as Trump did it. And I get why Trump says so much dumb stuff, and he has such a, that really crushes everything for him. People just hate Trump, but he has done some stuff that I would say has really, like the whole ISIS thing, the whole North Korea thing. Like there's got to be props given to him, even though I don't feel like the media will give him props.
The media is so biased against him.
Huh?
The North Korea thing?
Like President Trump is the first president to go over there and
didn't accomplish anything.
Make amends with Kim Jong-un. I mean, the whole missile. I mean, people were. You got to say
he likes to make controversy and then fix the problems that he makes a lot of times.
But too. I feel like there was a nuclear. What do you call it? People were scared for a while. Yeah. There was a nuclear like.
Yeah, if you make people scared, then you have a problem.
But I mean, it was even before Trump. Like North Korea, how long?
But nothing was accomplished from the meeting.
But I mean, we don't have the same. We don't have the same like. What? How do you want to say it? Like
I feel like view of them.
Yeah, I think it's all been changed.
They're not.
So we accept dictatorship as how our view changed.
I don't think we. I mean, there's a difference between accepting and working with somebody. Even though Kim Jong-un is a horrible human being who will never. We cannot go over there and tell him how to change, but we can try to at least work with him so he doesn't try to destroy the United States. And maybe step by step we could slowly convert his thinking. I mean, North Korea is ridiculous. The stuff he's doing over there, no one could back that up.
We can agree on that.
No one could back that up, yeah. But I feel like step by step, getting a partnership is the only way to get down to the road where potentially maybe in the future we could stop the dictatorship.
Yeah, there's no easy answer on that one either. When it comes to I can't ever say that word.
Weapons of mass
destruction. Yeah. Jason Sherman brought that up.
Yeah.
Well, and I think you're exactly right. I think that I don't know how much he solved to this point, but one thing that he did that Clinton, Obama, and even George Bush didn't do is he used China as leverage, because China's their friend. China's the person that in the event of a war would back North Korea.
Really?
But China has, of course. Listen, during the first Korean conflict, China was the one. I mean, I have friends of my parents, friends of my grandparents who fought in Korea. They weren't fighting against Korean troops half the time. They were fighting against Chinese troops. The Chinese Communist government backed them 100%.
Wow.
And so what would a democracy in Korea do over there? It would cause a huge problem in China. Because if there's right now, people don't immigrate from China to Korea because it's both, it's terrible in Korea, and it's not much better in China as far as equal rights.
Yeah.
If they made that a democracy, China knows that people flow into North Korea because they don't want to be there anymore.
Yeah.
It's a terrible place.
Yeah.
And what Trump understands, or maybe everybody understands but didn't leverage, is the fact that China needs us more than we need China.
Yeah.
We feed China.
Really?
We buy a lot of their Chinese garbage. We don't need their Chinese garbage. We feed that country.
Well, I mean, they do make a lot of stuff in China for the United States, so they make it crazy.
Well, right, but we could make it here.
Yeah.
We have the capability of making it here.
Yeah.
Would we have to pay more? Sure we would.
Yeah.
We still have more natural resources anywhere in the world. One of the things China has on us is what they call heavy metals. Some of these metals they use for electronics and different things.
Yep.
We're building a factory in Texas right now that will produce those same metals. And so then it will eliminate a lot of the cell phone or military type items. But that will eliminate a lot of what we need for China in that respect. Something that should have happened 20 years ago is now happening.
Yeah.
And so I think Trump has leveraged China a little bit in that situation, saying, you know what, listen, you've got to play ball with us here.
Yeah.
These people cannot be lobbing missiles. It's not good for us. It's not good for you. And I of course, wasn't there, but I would imagine the conversation with Trump and the president of China was something like this. Them having nuclear weapons is bad for you. And the Chinese president said, how is that bad for us? They're not going to lob it at us. Because if they lob one at us, we're lobbing a bunch there.
Yeah.
And where are you at? You're downwind. And
wasn't it too like if we were ever talk nuclear missiles towards North Korea, China would have China would go. They said that they would go after us if we did it.
Really?
To North Korea.
Oh, sure.
Wow. I mean, it's like the 1980s movie war thing. My only point was just like, and that's the trade-off. Like, do you give them leverage and the importance of your meeting with the United States when you're that
isolated?
Yeah, isolated is the word I was looking for, and I don't want to say malnourished, but like when you're putting all your money.
You're a rogue state.
You're a rogue state.
Yeah.
You're putting all your money. You're talking about us putting
a
lot of money into the military. Korea, I think, I don't know what the percentage is, but they have
I think that's most of their budget.
Yeah.
Well,
their
policy is Army first. Yeah. Their people actually starve every year. The Army has to be fed first.
Really?
That's their policy.
Wow.
It's a terrible place to live.
I have a motto I've been living by. You don't, and this this isn't saying Trump's a fool. It's not saying, well, maybe Kim Jong-un or anyone at this table.
He is a fool.
It's tough to, you got to watch when you argue with fools because people from a distance can't tell who's who. So like if you go to if you're
that
meeting
from a rap?
It is, it's Jay-Z.
I was just saying, Dan, where are you getting these quotes from?
Drop a beat at him. But no, you got to kind of take that in mind because you do need to be diplomatic about it. And there's no easy answer. It's just when a topic comes up, and John brought up some great points after that, like how to leverage things. And I'm not staying on the fence, and I'm just stating the stuff that we think about. And
you brought up the movie War Games.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. These guys probably don't know.
Yeah. Is that
Matthew Broderick?
Harrison Ford's in that, isn't he?
Nope.
Oh, he's not.
And Dabney Coleman. It was from the 1984-85
Cold War era.
And basically, what it was is this kid hacked into the military's nuclear system. And it was supposed to be a simulation, but actually he was triggering.
Really?
Was going to trigger weapons. Yeah. So they arrest him, and then the computer starts playing the game on its own.
And he has the real codes to the real weapons.
Correct.
Wow.
And the story, I guess the moral of the story is what this computer figured out on its own, because it didn't annihilate everybody, was that in nuclear war there's no winners.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because if we lob a missile at North Korea, North Korea lobs, or maybe they don't have it yet, but here's the other thing. North Korea lobs a missile to Hawaii.
Oh.
And we're supposed to sit there. I have a friend who was in the military, relative, and he said, here's the thing. We have subs sitting right off the coast of North Korea. We have subs everywhere in the world.
Yep.
We have, on submarines alone, we have 4,000 nuclear weapons.
Really?
We could eliminate, in 5 minutes, he said, in 5 minutes, the United States could eliminate all the living animals on Earth.
Wow.
Everything. And so,
it's scary almost.
So what's the point of that? Well, we know North Korea has it. Will they use it? Probably not, because it's kind of what they said during the Cold War. Both the United States and Russia were terribly concerned that we were going to annihilate each other.
Yeah. But you get a madman in there with a mental health disease, and then that's what we start to worry about.
Yeah, that's why when you get some instability, that's why and this is a whole other issue, but when we went into Iraq and took out Saddam, it was a terribly destabilizing thing in the Middle East. Saddam, let me say as a disclaimer, Saddam was one of the worst dictators in the history of mankind.
Yep.
He gassed his own people. He performed genocide on a level that was only seen a few times in history.
Yep.
With that being said, his neighbors didn't screw with him. Iran fought a war. It was a standstill. He dicked around Syria. It was a standstill.
Yep.
People didn't fight against Saddam unless it was the United States. That's it.
Yeah.
And now when you took him out of there, it created a vacuum.
Yep.
Now Iran is flooding Iraq with their basically undercover agents, military.
Yep.
They're running missiles up to Syria, right through Iraq, because there's no stability there.
No.
And so
and that's why it's going to be tough for Kim Jong-un and North Korea to give up that power, because that's pretty much that's what they have. That's their leverage.
Yeah. Yep.
And he doesn't care. I mean, his military's fed. He gets fed. He has all this money.
Oh yeah.
His people suffer, and he doesn't care.
No.
So that's why he's isolated himself at the cost of his own people. I mean, they have millions of people starve every year in that country.
It's ridiculous.
For the sake of him just holding on to power. You're absolutely right.
And they got to wake up every morning. I know they got to pray to him, and there's some
Go watch War Games. I don't want to I don't know how we can make this one uplifting. But it was. They played. Well, now we're giving away the end of the movie. That's a spoiler.
Yeah,
I won't
don't give away the
away
end of the movie. But War Games will check it out for sure. Yeah, that's cool.
But it also kind of makes you think about. We talk about hacking sometimes in computers, and if that would be a possibility, too, to get into systems or someone to get the code and these things, And there's a movie called Spy Games too. It's just
Spy Games.
Isn't that or Chevy Chase? Is that the Chevy Chase one?
Oh, that's
Spies Like Us.
Spies Like Us. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But people who lived in the 80s, I mean, you felt that pressure of nuclear war.
Yeah.
You felt it. I mean, it was they did drills where you got under your desk.
When you said you had to drill where a siren went off, that's what I was picturing, because I remember doing those drills where
getting under a desk. For whatever reason, they thought nuclear. Did you guys watch this series Chernobyl?
No, I didn't. It looks really good though.
It is one of the most terrifying things that I've ever watched.
Really?
The fallout after it?
Yeah, the fallout, like the nuclear war, just what happens to the human body and how quickly it happens in a nuclear situation where there's an explosion. It's just stark. And I don't think people, it's kind of like vaccines. I think people, as they get further away from the things that are really bad, you kind of forget how terrible they are. I'm glad I watched that, because I think it reminds people, this is the horror. I mean, we were very close in Chernobyl to having most of Eastern Europe have no drinkable water for 100 years.
Wow.
That's how we were days away.
Wow.
A Russian scientist saved basically all of Russia.
Wow.
The Ukraine, Belarus, a lot of those Eastern Bloc countries would have been uninhabitable for 100 years.
Mm-hmm. And a separate topic, they're doing crazy tours over there right now. Like, they're promoting it on Facebook like crazy. Like, go to Chernobyl, go check it out. Like,
really?
Because
it's still lurking or something.
They built a giant, I can't remember the name of it.
Sarcophagus.
Yeah, to cover this thing. And they put it over, and I think they're still working on another thing. Like they just keep, because the radiation can get through the concrete. I'm pretty sure
it'll eat right through it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just a matter of time before it gets through it. So they got to keep coming up with new ideas.
Yeah, and we brought that up on one other podcast where the word weapon of mass destruction doesn't really raise alarms now as it did when we were younger with kids, because it's just
desensitized.
It's desensitized, and I don't want to say I'm worried about it because I don't want to live in fear and like go around thinking about it all the time.
No.
But during the elections, and I'm not saying either Hillary or Trump. I'm not saying either one. One of my main topics was like having the codes to nuclear, like, and what you're going to do with North Korea or what you're going to do with this country, because that's one thing that quickly could change.
Oh yeah.
Just the way everybody looks at something in the health of living, is that the term I'm looking for? But the how you live.
And maybe that's what I was kind of trying to get at before when I said Trump went to Kim Jong-un. It's comforting to see them shaking hands when you know that that's the most evil man in the world right there. And Trump, although doesn't agree with what he does over there and what Kim Jong-un is doing to the people, at least there's some kind of communication here where they're not hating each other.
And the other would be the opposite side. I mean, I'll let you go, John. The other side would be to stand a firmer ground and use some other type of, I don't want to say I don't know what I'm saying. Go ahead, John.
No, I kind of get what you're saying. Yeah. I mean, it's like one of the things that made our country great in a lot of ways was the way we stood up to Cuba all those years. Listen, you tried to kill our president. Most people think that. You had people don't understand this. You had nuclear missiles 30 miles from Miami.
This is like Fidel Castro.
Yeah. And so there's a lot of hard feelings there. We punished Cuba for 40, 50 years for that reason.
Yeah.
And I don't disagree with what you're saying at all. My thought was kind of what you were saying. At least if he's shaking Trump's hand, there's a relationship.
That's what I'm saying.
He's less, it's like this. If you know somebody, like your neighbors, you're less likely to treat them like crap.
Yeah.
If you don't know your neighbors, like, I don't care about those people. I'm hoping that in that relationship, he thinks a little more, hey, maybe Donald's my friend, or maybe he's somebody that I think I can work with. I hate the fact that we negotiate with people that are dirtbags like him.
He's
a dirtbag.
Yeah, he is. He's a horrible person.
And I could maybe see... And if you're doing it for the good of the North Korean people too, that would be a good one to say. Like if you, I'm going to relate it to Game of Thrones, like the Red Keep, and you probably guys don't watch it, but
no, I've never seen it before.
I want to.
You want to? Then I won't give it away. But the foulers, like if you foul someone, what do you maybe deserve to get when you're under attack? You know, can you rise and revolt against and change ideas, but I won't nerd it out here because that's the only thing
Well, I mean, you could take the perspective of trying to be tough with him too, but that I just can't see that working with Kim Jong-un. Like,
we didn't even talk about what he actually has. I mean, we see the missiles and the tests and the things like that.
A lot of failed testing.
A lot of failed testing, but also like a lot of propaganda pushed out that with these awesome weapons and stuff too. So but I mean, the fact that he's a psycho, like a guy that does not give any crap about people, and that if he has any kind of nuclear technology, that's kind of scary.
Yeah. But does he feel that way?
What do you mean?
I mean, he blusters like every dictator in the history of the world. He talks a big show.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I'll go back to like the '60s when Nikita Khrushchev was with Kennedy. I mean, they vacationed together at times. They hung out together.
Yeah.
Working on negotiations.
Yeah.
Their kids hung out together.
Yeah.
And so I think
it's just episode 7.
And so they talk about all these, how adversarial it is and how tough he is. What's he supposed to do?
Yeah.
Because people forget, too, those communist parties are propped up by a multi-layered group of people.
Yep.
And they all account for people. If people in that communist level think they're losing power, they will take him out.
Yeah.
But they don't care who he is. They will take him out. They'll coup him or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, so he has to walk that line. I wonder how much of it is, I grew up with a couple douchebags. My grandpa was one. My dad was one.
Yeah.
Because he's a lot softer than those two. Those were very hard line.
Yeah.
We're not meeting with anybody. We're going to do what we want. If you come here, we're going to fight. And for God's sakes, the Korean War isn't even over.
Yeah.
It isn't over.
Yeah.
It's an armistice.
Well, I mean, that's kind of why I was just saying, like, it's kind of nice to know that at least there's some, like you said, relationship there now where, he's a horrible guy, whatever, but at least we're on somewhat good terms where we can at least start talking, moving in the right direction. Because didn't he agree to work with the South Korean president or something? Didn't Trump talk?
Well, they met.
They met? Did they meet? Okay, because that's the first time in history that's happened.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's some positive things going on with
Olympics.
That whole thing. North Korea was in the Olympics, weren't they?
They made some visitations back
and
forth,
I think,
from South Korea to North.
No, I'm not saying they had good teams, but they were in the Olympic in the past.
But I think just those two meeting is as controversial as that is a very big thing. I mean, when you're bringing together people who've said, I'm never going to meet with that person, I don't know.
It'd be interesting to see like how they spun it in North Korea on their propaganda.
Well, because I heard all they do is talk trash about the USA. On their
trash
TV.
and so that's I don't want to keep going back to this, but that's another concern. Like the camera shots. Like I'm sure it has nothing. It's totally different stories on both sides. And they're showing, hey, we made a deal with the USA. You know, now we're as powerful as them.
Yep. They're probably saying all kinds of stuff.
Colin's in the house.
Yeah,
he snuck
Colin
in here.
Claire's
Sorry,
in
buddy.
here. Whoa, perfect timing here. Talking about politics.
We get off it.
One more thing, though, before we shut this thing down, I wanted to get your opinion on this, John. I thought this could be interesting. I don't know if you saw anything about it. The Fairlife milk, the Fairlife cow scandal thing that happened. You haven't heard about this?
I don't think so.
There was a video leaked that this animal rights organization put out, and
a pretty credible animal rights organization.
That was a big one.
Not PETA or ones that we all kind of.
Yeah.
Not that PETA isn't, but I don't want any trouble for you. But it wasn't one of those that a lot of people in the Midwest view as kind of a fringe group.
Yep. I can't remember the name of it. It was the AWA or ACA or something like that. Something like that. And so they went into Fairlife Farms, which is Coca-Cola's milk.
It's owned by Coca-Cola. It's a non-lactose milk.
Yep. And they went in there, and over the course of like 6 months, I think it was, they got an employee in with cameras, and they videotaped like multiple different on occasions of these workers just brutal, like punching cows and dragging them.
Calves,
calves,
beating calves, branding them twice,
yeah,
swinging their heads into the enclosures.
Horrible stuff, like taking milk jugs, smacking them against their heads. They were piling bodies up. It was horrible stuff, and it's hard to watch.
Yeah. And saying, not to interrupt, but also saying that they weren't, one of their agreements, Fairlife said, we don't ship our animals out to become veal, calves to be turned into veal.
But they followed one of their trucks with a drone, and they followed it into a veal plant, processing plant.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of controversy. I saw Fairlife Farms released a video, which no one's obviously talking about. The president came out and said they're going to do a lot of things to make this stop. They're going to put cameras up at every spot where there's human to animal interaction. And they're going to have live viewing for that in their museum on the site. Like they have a little farm life museum, so you can watch the cameras 24/7.
This is their damage control?
This is their damage control. This is what they're doing to fix it. They're going to hire all these people to come in, retrain all the staff. And I'm not trying to defend them because this is horrible stuff, but there is stuff that they're doing to fix this that no one's talking about, which I think is a big issue. Because there is a way to come back from such a horrible thing. Right. That's just my opinion on it. What do you think? What did you think about the whole thing, John?
Well, first off, it was one of the most despicable things I've ever seen. I've worked in animal husbandry, and to see that makes me sick. Yeah, almost physically sick. Yeah. With that being said, I like the fact that they're putting cameras in. They're going to allow these groups to monitor their farms. Yep. But my thing is this, and I say this every time one of these videos comes out. Why the hell didn't you do this 3 years ago? Yeah. How many animals had to die and we didn't think this would happen? Well, then you're an idiot. Yeah. Because if you've seen any of these undercover videos, that stuff happens when you're using human beings. And he said they received this training. Well, sure they did. They still did this. Yeah. And so to me, it's like it's almost too little too late. I appreciate them doing this because I think it took guts to go out there and say, hey, listen, our brand's wrecked. More than that, these animals were brutalized and they were killed, and it was unfair. Yeah. But to me, it's like.
So they did admit wrongdoing when they
sure.
said
These videos were so clear. The guy didn't say we didn't do it. He said we did it, and
he took 100% responsibility.
He looked real somber, actually.
He did. You saw the video.
I did. I mean, the president came out and he said, "Listen, we're just sickened. We're sickened by it." I'm glad they do that.
I agree with
The problem in this area is there's a lot of good cattle people and a lot of good hog producers.
Puts a bad name
and those
on
big
them.
city folks see that and they go, this is all factory farms. This is what you get when you have factory farms. That's BS. I worked in a factory, what they call factory farm. This is, 3 or 4% of the entire population who raises animals, which is 3 or 4% too many, that's doing this. So to throw them all down the rat hole and say, see, this is why we shouldn't have factory farms. Listen, folks, we're not just feeding the United States. We're feeding the world right now. We're shipping 1 million hogs a day to China.
Really?
We're shipping 1 million hogs a day. Wow. We're not just feeding us. Why do you think we do it on such a grand scale? This isn't for us even in the slightest.
Well, and it was only 4 employees. I'm not trying to back any of this up. I see how Fairlife Farms can be so deterred by all this. I mean, obviously it was a horrible thing. These 4 employees were fired. Months before this video came out.
Well, the 4 employees that were supervised by other employees. Who
they were turned in.
Correct. Right. But also, This really upsets me. I see so many of the farm people who work so hard to prevent this kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it's 4 people. Well, to say that none of those people, more than 4, saw that's bullshit. There's people in and out of these barns every day. The people that load these animals up, you're telling me they never saw an animal that had been branded twice?
Yeah.
Why are you branding an animal twice?
Well, and they were only in there for 6 months. How long?
Why
has
are
this
you
been going
branding
on
an
for?
animal anyways?
Yeah.
I mean, there's things you can do, tag them or whatever, that are far more humane.
Yeah.
They're castrating them and not doing it the right way. They're doing a bunch of different things that are just wrong.
Yeah.
And, when you see that sort of stuff, especially when you live where we live, and it's such an important part of our lifestyles, to see that, it's like...
Tough. I'm not going to watch it. I got the gist of it here.
Listen,
and especially because you deal with animals too, Damon. It's really tough to watch, and it's important though because it is an issue. Like you said, you worked on farms as well. It's not something that happens often, but it is something that, it's probably a good thing that they brought it up.
Well, and in fairness to cattle or hog farmers, I mean, do you have to muscle these animals to load them? Sure. There's paddles to help. These adult hogs are 300 pounds.
Yeah.
If they get going up a chute, you're not stopping them.
Yeah.
You got to be able to turn them.
Yeah.
I mean, there are the realities where I'm not saying you have to rough up animals, but you do have to physically direct them to go places because,
you can't just tell them go here and they're going to go.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
But to grab a calf and swing it by its legs into an iron post, or to brand it a couple times,
they're stomping on them while they're laying on the ground,
to stomp on the head, to just toss bodies wherever. It's not respectful of the animals. And there's a lot of people, and there's increasingly amounts of people that are giving up meat because they don't want to see these sort of things. And so if we're going to not just protect our industry, but these are proud industries. These are industries that provide food for people all around the world.
Yeah.
These kind of things absolutely have to stop.
Yeah.
Because it's destroying the vision of the industry.
Yeah.
And not the money part of it, but the lifestyle part of it. People have done this for 150 years.
Yeah.
Who've never beaten their animals.
Yeah, it's really tough, and it's one of those things where I feel really bad for everybody, all the farmers who do everything right, and then this comes out and it gives a really bad reputation to them.
Sure.
But then you also got to see, well, this is probably a good thing it came out because then it puts out this awareness that there is something we can do better training, we can put cameras up so this won't happen again. It's bad for Fairlife Farms. At the same time, it's probably a good thing that this came up because there's a lot of things that can be fixed.
Right.
Better training. They're going to bring someone in, like the guy said, to watch and work with the employees daily. So it was one of those things I saw. It's making huge headlines. Everyone's talking about it, and I know you haven't seen the video, Damon. I wouldn't recommend it, but I just thought it'd be something interesting to get your opinion on.
No, I appreciate you asking. It's like I said, even I'm an insurance agent. In our industry, farms are super vital to what we do to make a living.
Yeah.
And I have friends who farm. I mean, friends I've known since I was a little kid.
Yeah.
And to see that sort of stuff, it pains them.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I have a friend who's on Fox Business News probably once a week.
Really?
Talking about farms.
Wow.
And she's a voice for animal husbandry and for just grain farming. And,
wow.
And, when she sees this sort of stuff, I mean, it just takes the wind out of them.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, because they know what they do with their animals.
Yeah.
And to see somebody mistreat them so badly.
Yeah. It's horrible.
It is. I mean, I just can't. I've had dogs. I've had pets over the years. I've worked in farms. I can't imagine treating an animal in that respect.
Yeah.
It makes me absolutely sick.
It's ridiculous. And I hope that those people are all prosecuted for what they did. Yeah. I don't know if that's going to happen or not. I know they got fired. I don't know if fired is the right. I think there should be more criminal punishment.
Prosecuted.
Prosecuted.
Well, and where did they get those ideas?
Right.
Are these just 4 mean people that showed up, or is this a company that actually supported that sort of behavior means to the end? Because you're telling me more than 4 people didn't know that those were being shipped off to Veal? When that invoice came into accounting, they didn't say, why are we getting a check from Wyman Brothers?
Yeah, no, that is a good point.
Veal company?
Yeah, the Veal part of it's a whole other thing.
And this is a 180 because, of course, the thoughts that run through my head. You mentioned I work with horses and animals, and we use those horses to try to teach kids and adults empathy and how to be kind to animals, and that carries over to their everyday life. Those people obviously have never learned that.
No.
Being mean to an animal, they don't realize that you have connections with them, and
better
they're
training.
They're living, breathing beings.
Yeah. Well, that True Sport, I think is it True Sports with Bryant Gumbel? Real Sports with Bryant Gumbel. they had an episode the other night where Andrea Kramer, or no, it was Bernard Goldberg. He was doing an interview with the horse racing industry.
Oh.
And, the United States has the highest rate of horse deaths in
Really?
racing of anywhere in the world.
Wow.
And, I mean, it's not
that.
even close. They interviewed a trainer in France who'd been training horses for 30 years. She was a veterinarian.
Yep.
She'd never had a horse die from an injury from a track.
Really?
Because they're doping horses here.
Wow.
And then what they're saying is a lot of these tracks, what happens when they get these horses that can't race anymore, instead of finding owners for them, what they're doing is they're selling them at an auction. They're being transported to Mexico and being made into meat.
Oh, my God.
And they actually took a hidden camera, and they followed these people and showed them being bolted in the head multiple times because they wouldn't die.
Yeah.
And then they hang them up, bleed them out, and do what they do a regular animal at slaughter.
Wow.
And, so why?
That's crazy.
That's the other thing in this whole thing is in that horse racing industry. That's why I don't watch this Preakness and all this other stuff, because it supports an industry that is routinely mistreating animals.
Yeah, it's
injecting them
ridiculous.
with chemicals or whatever so that they run.
Yeah.
They're injured, and if a horse breaks a leg, it's not like a dog where you can set it.
It's really
if a
tough
horse
to
breaks a
come back
leg,
from
they're
that.
almost always dead.
Wow.
I want to go back to premise because that video they're raising the cattle to slaughter that still doesn't give anyone the right to mistreat them till they meet that
Correct.
what they're being raised for their use. That
Yeah.
doesn't, and that also is. If you're having that mentality, I'm going to relate it back. You're probably going to do that to other. I mean, not you. You don't have the right mentality if you're.
No.
abusing
Well, that's what I was
animals.
getting at. They're kind of sick people.
They're sick
They're not
people.
just criminals. They're people that
Someone's
are
not
sadistic.
Because
right.
I know
Someone's
someone's
not
watching,
right.
like, oh, they're raising them to slaughter anyways.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not. They're not, and you should still treat them with respect till they meet their purpose, like that they're being raised.
And
for.
there was a study that came out that said that people who brutalize or hurt animals are more likely to then, and people who work in slaughterhouses even are more likely to become abusers, or because they're desensitized to the violence of the kill.
Yeah.
And so that's the thing, like in these slaughterhouses, you see these people kind of in and people out. It's causing a form of PTSD where they're so traumatized by, they're bolting. I don't know how you know how to kill an animal, but they use a bolt gun,
they
it
shoot
shoots
it
into the head,
That
so
one
that their
movie.
heart keeps moving. Really
Old
terrible.
Man,
No
Old
Country
Man,
for
the
Old
Old
Men.
Man.
Oh, terrible. Oof.
Yeah.
But basically, that's so the heart keeps beating. So the blood, when they cut it, the blood will then run out. It'll be pumped out by the heart.
Gotcha.
That's why they do
Colin,
it.
this hasn't been a real upbeat podcast. I'm going to do
Colin's
You're like the excited.
Colin's over there. What are we talking about?
Animals and
Yeah.
So anyways, I mean, the point in that was there's a humane way to do it, and unfortunately in this industry, it can create a type of person who is desensitized to the terrible things that they see every day.
Yeah, it is, and it was an important thing to bring up, and I thought it'd be something to talk about. And I didn't mean to get everyone on a negative mindset. We've talked about a lot of you wanted a controversial podcast, John. You think you got it here? We haven't talked about this serious of issues in a long time.
controversial one, but also a good meeting of ideas.
Oh yeah, I think it's always good. This is why we do the
all
podcast.
opinions.
Yep, all opinions. We got to state that. It's good. This is the point of the podcast. This is exactly what I wanted. Bring people together. Not always agreeing on stuff, but figuring out, coming together, and just talking.
Always not having the right answers.
Yeah. We don't always have the right answers, but we can at least
don't know.
talk about it and give some people something to think about. They can go home and they can. I never thought about that before. Is what I want people to be thinking when they're listening.
Well, and I think the reason I agree to do this isn't because I like you kids, and I love watching
You love
the
us,
stupid
John,
shit
come on.
that you guys pull off all the time. It's like blind leading the really blind, if there is a thing like that. Someone's going to die. I haven't picked who yet. Someone will, and that's sad, but that's the price.
We got a guy right here for
That's
you.
the price of making the movies.
Yeah.
I'm not saying there's side bets, but one of the things that I like about your podcast is you discuss these things, and one thing that I think our country needs to continue to do is what I call lowering the temperature. So much of it is I don't like you, and we're so different we just can't get along.
Yeah.
When we sit here, we can lower that temperature of the country. We can say, listen, we all are different people.
Yep.
We all have different ideas.
Yep.
At the end of the night, I'm not mad at you. I'm not mad at you. I'm not mad at you. We're just discussing them, and I think these kind of things really lower the overall temperature. And we need more of this, where people can just say, "This is how I feel."
Yep.
We may disagree, but there's good reasons for everything.
Exactly. And like you said, walk away here. We're all going to be friends. No one's going to be mad at anybody because we didn't agree on something or whatever. So. That's how we started the podcast off. We started talking about the incel thing. So I think it kind of came a full wrap around. Discussion is important.
That's why you need me here.
Yeah, John, great job. Thank you very much for coming
best.
on.
Yeah.
Like I was saying, just discussion. Like you said, John, discussion is so important. So I would highly encourage people to sit down and talk about this stuff. Don't keep it in and don't don't go around and act like you don't want to know more about things, because I think it's important that we get educated on stuff that's going on all around us, and that's the only way that things are going to change.
Yep. Open mind.
Yeah, open mind. Well, John, really appreciate you coming on. It's been a great time.
You betcha.
Just try not to make the handshake awkward this time.
It's always going to happen.
I was waiting for it.
I was going to say, that was pretty good this time. Well, this has been a great episode, 41 of the podcast. We just did the 40th episode last week, so you're on 41, John.
Well, I'll see you in another 100.
Yeah. We'll have to get you on again, because I feel like we could talk for another 4 or 5 hours if we wanted, but for the sake of everyone, we better cut it short, because I know some people have a short attention span, so we better keep it short. But to everyone watching, really appreciate you watching or listening. Leave us a review, leave us topics you'd like to hear about, or leave us a guest you'd like to get on. So this is the Clerc Podcast Show. We'll be back next week.